If you lose your only fish, you grieve. If you lose one in a stocked pond, you do not even know. When one person hates on you, you want to clear your name. When thousands do, you stop giving a damn. The reason you are hurting is scarcity. The reason you are sweating the small stuff is that your perspective is too narrow. Zoom out, and you will see that most things do not deserve a reaction. A big perspective makes for small problems. This fundamental truth about human psychology explains almost every moment of anxiety you have ever experienced. It is not about the severity of the event, but the context in which it occurs. When you have very little going on in your life, the smallest disruption feels like a catastrophe. This is the mechanism of scarcity. It is a survival instinct gone wrong. In the ancient world, if you had one spear and it broke, you starved. If you had one alliance and it crumbled, you died. We are biologically wired to obsess over the singular assets in our lives. We fixate on the one relationship, the one job opportunity, the one negative comment, or the one failure because our primitive brain registers that loss as a threat to our existence. However, we no longer live in a world where these singular losses are fatal, yet we react with the same chemical flood of cortisol and adrenaline. You are treating a scratched bumper on your car with the same emotional gravity as a lion attack because your world has shrunk down to the size of that bumper. The pain you feel is real, but the calculation is wrong. You are letting a single variable dictate the entire equation. If that one thing is 100% of your life, then losing it costs you 100% of your peace. But when you add more variables, more goals, more connections, more passions, the statistical weight of that one loss shrinks. This is not about becoming numb. It is about ensuring that no single failure has the mathematical power to destroy you. When you look at the way people handle criticism, you see this dynamic play out with brutal clarity. Imagine a small town where everyone knows everyone. If one neighbor accuses you of theft, your reputation is ruined. You cannot buy bread, you cannot find a mate, and you are socially exiled. In that small pond, the opinion of one person is everything. You will stay up all night crafting your defense. You will approach them in the street. You will beg for them to understand your side of the story. You are desperate because your sample size is 50 people, and losing one is a 2% drop in your social stock. Now, look at a public figure or a creator with an audience of millions. They might wake up to 1,000 comments calling them incompetent, ugly, or fraudulent. If they possessed the small-town mindset, they would die of stress before noon. But they do not. They cannot. When the scale of criticism expands, the value of an individual critic drops to zero. It becomes background noise. It becomes weather. You do not argue with the rain. You just put up an umbrella and keep walking. The person who is devastated by a single rude email from a coworker is the person who has nothing else to define their worth other than that job. They have no side projects, no deep hobbies, no rich community outside the office, and no internal sense of mission. They are the owner of the single fish. When that fish floats to the top of the bowl, their entire emotional ecosystem collapses. The solution to this fragility is not to try to protect the fish. It is to dig a bigger pond. Most people spend their lives trying to build thicker glass around their single fishbowl. They try to be perfect so they never get criticized. They try to be safe so they never lose money. They try to be compliant so they never get fired. This is a losing strategy because entropy guarantees that things will break and things will die. You cannot prevent the loss, but you can dilute the impact of the loss. This is the concept of diversification applied to the human soul. If your identity is solely wrapped up in being a parent, the day your child leaves for college or makes a decision you disagree with, you will be destroyed. If your identity is solely wrapped up in being a high-performing athlete, the day you tear a ligament, you will spiral into depression. But if you are a parent, and an athlete, and a reader, and a volunteer, and a gardener, and a friend, the loss in one sector is absorbed by the stability of the others. You have a pond. The death of one fish is sad, but it does not bankrupt the ecosystem. You must aggressively expand the territories of your life. You must acquire more skills, build more relationships, read more books, and experience more places. This is not for the sake of vanity. It is for the sake of emotional survival. The wider your base, the harder you are to topple. We often mistake obsession for virtue. We think that caring deeply about every little thing makes us good people. We believe that if we do not agonize over a misunderstanding, we are being callous. This is a lie we tell ourselves to justify our neuroticism. There is a limited budget for your emotional energy. Every time you spend your focus on a petty grievance, you are stealing resources from the things that actually matter. You are paying a premium price for discount goods. When you get cut off in traffic and spend the next 20 minutes fuming, replaying the event, and wishing you had yelled something different, you are not fighting for justice. You are simply revealing that you have nothing better to do. A person on their way to capitalize on a massive opportunity does not have the bandwidth to memorize the license plate of the car that cut them off. They are moving too fast. They are too heavy with purpose to be blown off course by a gust of wind. The reason you are lashing out is that you are light. You have no ballast. You are drifting in a small boat on a small lake, so every ripple feels like a tsunami. If you were an ocean liner, you would plow through the waves without spilling your coffee. The goal is to become heavy with purpose and wide with perspective. Consider the mechanics of shame. Shame thrives in isolation and secrecy. It convinces you that your mistake is the only thing that people can see. It tells you that the spotlight is on you. This is the small world fallacy again. In a small world, everyone is watching you. In the real world, everyone is watching themselves. When you trip and fall in a crowded street, you feel a flush of embarrassment because you imagine that 500 people are recording that moment in their minds. The reality is that 499 of them forgot you existed 2 seconds after you stood up. They are worried about their rent, their health, their lovers, and their own dead fish. Your stumbling is a non-event in the grand narrative of their lives. Once you truly internalize how little you matter to other people, you become free. You realize that the thousands of people scolding you are not actually thinking about you. They are projecting their own frustrations onto a convenient avatar. You are just a pixel on their screen. This realization allows you to detach. It allows you to look at the anger directed toward you and see it as data rather than a weapon. You can analyze it, learn from it if there is any validity to it, and discard the rest without your heart rate elevating a single beat. This is the power of the expanded view. There is a concept in psychology called the focusing illusion. It states that nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you are thinking about it. When you are fixated on a problem, your mind zooms in until that problem fills your entire field of vision. It becomes the entire world. If you are feuding with a sibling, it feels like the defining tragedy of the century. If you are struggling to pay a specific bill, it feels like the end of your financial future. This is a distortion of the lens. You are looking at a grain of sand through a microscope and screaming because it looks like a boulder. The remedy is to pull your eye away from the eyepiece. You have to look at the timeline of your life. Will this matter in 5 years? Will this matter in 5 months? Usually, the answer is no. If it will not matter in 5 years, do not spend more than 5 minutes being upset about it. This sounds like a cliché, but it is a rigorous discipline. It requires you to constantly check your emotional spending against the long-term value of the event. Most of us are making bad investments every single day. We are bankrupting our peace of mind for things that have zero resale value. The expansion of your world is not just about time, it is about space and complexity. When you study history, you realize that your current crisis is a repetitive rhyme in the poem of human existence. You are not the first person to be betrayed. You are not the first person to lose a job. You are not the first person to feel lonely. Billions have been here before you. This does not invalidate your pain, but it contextualizes it. It connects you to the collective human experience. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start acknowledging this is what it means to be human. This shift from the personal to the universal is the hallmark of a wide mind. The person with the small world thinks the universe is conspiring against them specifically. The person with the wide world understands that chaos is a feature of the system, not a targeted attack. When you stop taking the universe personally, you become invincible. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You accept the death of the fish as part of the cycle of the pond, you restock, you feed the survivors, and you move on. Let us return to the image of the pond versus the single bowl. Building a pond takes work. It is easier to buy a bowl and a goldfish. It requires zero effort to live a small, reactive life. It is the path of least resistance. You can just go to work, come home, watch television, and scroll through your phone. But the price you pay for that ease is fragility. Because you have built nothing, you have nothing to fall back on. When the storm comes, and the storm always comes, you will be washed away. Building the pond means doing the hard things. It means having difficult conversations to build real intimacy. It means saving money to build financial resilience. It means studying difficult subjects to build intellectual depth. It means pushing your body to build physical toughness. Every rep in the gym, every dollar saved, every book read, and every honest conversation is a shovel of dirt being moved to widen your reservoir. You are constructing a capacity for tragedy. You are building a vessel that can hold suffering without shattering. When you see someone who remains calm in a crisis, you are not looking at someone who does not care. You are looking at someone with a massive context. A seasoned emergency room doctor does not panic when a patient is bleeding out. A medical student might freeze. The difference is not compassion. The difference is the size of their mental library. The doctor has seen this 1,000 times. Their world of medical experience is vast, so this specific injury sits within a known framework. The student has a small world, so the injury overflows the boundaries of their capacity. You want to be the doctor of your own life. You want to have seen enough, done enough, and lost enough that new problems are simply filed under manageable. This is why sheltering yourself or your children from difficulty is the cruelest thing you can do. By preventing them from experiencing small losses, you ensure they will be destroyed by the first big loss. You are keeping their world artificially small. You are keeping them in the bowl. When the glass breaks, they will suffocate. You must expose yourself to the elements. You must invite the challenge. You must expand the perimeter of your comfort zone until it encompasses the uncomfortable. There is a distinct kind of freedom that comes when you realize you are not the main character of reality. The main character syndrome is a heavy burden. If you are the protagonist, then every setback is a plot twist that you have to resolve. Every enemy is a villain you have to defeat. It is exhausting. But if you are just a part of the ensemble cast, or better yet, just an extra in the background of a chaotic scene, the pressure lifts. You can experiment. You can fail. You can look stupid. Who cares? The cameras are not pointed at you. This liberation allows you to take risks that the small world version of you would never touch. You can start that business. You can ask that person out. You can move to that new city. The worst case scenario is that it does not work out, and you add a dead fish to your pond. But because you have a pond, you simply absorb the organic matter and use it to fertilize the next attempt. Failure becomes fuel, not a tombstone. Ultimately, the width of your mind determines the depth of your peace. A narrow mind is a turbulent channel. The water rushes through it with violence and noise. A wide mind is the open sea. There are waves on the surface, yes, but deep down there is stillness. The events of your daily life are the surface chop. The traffic tickets, the rude comments, the spilled coffee, the missed deadlines, these are just wind against water. If you live on the surface, you will be seasick forever. You will be tossed around by every shifting breeze of circumstance. But if you deepen your understanding, if you widen your identity, you sink your anchor into the bedrock below. You observe the chop, but you do not become it. You watch the fish die, and you mourn it. But you do not throw yourself on the funeral pyre. You understand that the pond is greater than the fish. You understand that you are the keeper of the water, not the victim of the weather. This perspective shift is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice of zooming out. Every time you feel that tightness in your chest, that flash of anger, or that pit of dread, you must pause. You must ask yourself, am I looking at this through a microscope? You must force your mental camera to pull back. Look at the room, look at the building, look at the city, look at the planet, look at the century. Reframe the problem against the backdrop of the infinite. Suddenly, the insult loses its sting. The loss loses its jagged edge. You breathe. You return to the moment with clarity rather than reactivity. You have moved from the scarcity of the bowl to the abundance of the ocean. And in the ocean, There is room for everything, even the death of what you love, even the noise of the crowd without it ever running dry. This is the only way to live a life that is not held hostage by the immediate. This is the only way to be truly free. The practical application of this philosophy requires a ruthless audit of your inputs. If you are constantly consuming content that makes you angry, fearful, or insecure, you are voluntarily shrinking your world. The news cycle is designed to keep you in the fishbowl. It zooms in on the most horrific, terrifying, and divisive events and screams that this is the only thing happening. It creates artificial scarcity and artificial urgency. It tells you that if you do not react now, the world ends. If you spend 3 hours a day on social media, you are training your brain to care about the opinions of strangers. You are training yourself to value metrics that do not exist in the real world. You are feeding the beast of scarcity. To build the pond, you must disconnect from the noise that compresses your spirit. You must spend time in nature, where the scale is geological, not digital. A mountain does not care about your political affiliation. The ocean does not care about your bank account. Being in the presence of things that are massive and indifferent is healing. It reminds you of your proper place in the order of things. It humbles you, and in that humility, you find peace. You realize that you are small, and therefore, your problems are small. Furthermore, you must actively seek out the thousands who might disagree with you, not to fight them, but to desensitize yourself to them. If you live in an echo chamber where everyone agrees with you, you become soft. Your intellectual immune system creates antibodies only when it is exposed to pathogens. You need to hear ideas that offend you. You need to read authors who challenge your fundamental beliefs. At first, you will feel that defensive spike. You will want to correct them. You will want to scold them. But if you persist, if you keep widening the aperture, you eventually reach a state of neutrality. You realize that people believe what they believe due to a complex web of genetics, upbringing, and experience that has nothing to do with you. You stop seeing them as enemies and start seeing them as phenomena. Interesting, you say. That person thinks the earth is flat. That person thinks I am an idiot. It becomes a curiosity rather than a combat. You preserve your energy. You keep your sword in its sheath because you realize there is no war, only a difference in perspective. Consider the energy of the creator versus the consumer. The consumer is always in a state of scarcity. They are waiting to be fed. If the content is bad, they are upset. If the service is slow, they are indignant. They have no control, so they overreact to the delivery mechanism. The creator, the builder, the one with the pond, is in a state of abundance. If they do not like the content, they make their own. If they do not like the service, they build a competitor or fix the problem themselves. They have agency. When you have agency, you have less anxiety. You are not waiting for the world to be nice to you. You are busy making the world what you want it to be. The fish die, you breed more fish. The critics scream, you create more art. You answer death with life. You answer destruction with production. This is the ultimate refutation of the scarcity mindset. You become a generator of value rather than a hoarder of it. And when you are a generator, you are never afraid of running out. You know the sources within you. The tragedy of the modern era is that we have global connectivity but local mentality. We are exposed to the trauma of 8 billion people, but we process it with a brain designed for a tribe of 105. This mismatch is what causes the chronic, low-level hum of anxiety that pervades society. We are trying to grieve for every fish in every pond in the world. It is impossible. It is a path to madness. You must draw boundaries. You must define the perimeter of your own pond. This is not selfishness. It is sanity. You can only care for what you can touch. You can only influence what is within your reach. Everything else is spectacle. By refusing to engage with the spectacle, you reclaim your power. You take back the energy that was leaking out into the void and pour it back into your own life. You make your water deep and clear. And then, paradoxically, you become a sanctuary for others. People are drawn to the calm. They are drawn to the person who is not freaking out. By stabilizing yourself, you become a stabilizing force for your family, your community, and your workplace. You become the eye of the storm. In the end, the size of your world is a choice. It is a choice you make every morning. You choose whether to open the app or open a book. You choose whether to obsess over the snide remark or focus on the compliment. You choose whether to define yourself by your losses or your assets. The default setting of the human mind is narrow. It is tight. It is fearful. You have to manually override the system. You have to consciously push the walls out. It takes effort. It takes courage. It implies a willingness to feel insignificant. But the reward is a life that is virtually unbreakable. A life where the highs are high, but the lows are just data points in a massive upward trend. A life where you can stand in the middle of a hurricane and only feel a breeze. So, look at your dead fish. Grieve it if you must. But then, look up. Look around. See the water stretching out to the horizon. Realize how much you have. Realize how much is left. And get back to work building your ocean.